So before I was a pastor, I was a fundraiser for an organization in Mississippi. And that meant that when I wasn't on the road or in an airport or on an airplane or in a weird hotel somewhere, I got to work from home. At the time, and for a long time, Mariah and I had cable. Working from home when you have cable is awesome. Because I could be doing work, and I was doing work, but I could also have the TV on in the background. And I could put on Bravo and watch a West Wing marathon. Or I could put on whatever channel this was on and watch a House marathon. Sometimes I could put on BBC America and for some reason I'm not totally clear on, just get Star Trek. No British shows at all. But sometimes I could also put on a 24-hour cable news network. Now I know different folks have their different 24-hour cable news networks. I won't tell you which one was mine. But one of the things that I noticed after we got rid of cable, after we cut the cord, after we just went to streaming, was that when I couldn't have on the 24-hour cable news network anymore, my blood pressure went down. My stress levels dropped. I wasn't angry about stuff as much. I was just kind of going through the world relaxed. I still got news, and I still get news. I check news a lot, but without the constant parade of a network trying to get and keep my attention, things are a lot easier and a lot nicer, and I'm a lot more relaxed. We're talking in this series about stories, why stories matter, how we can tell better stories. And one of the things that I've learned over the years in going through several different arts is, if you want to be a musician, you've got to listen to music. If you want to be a writer, you've got to read stuff. If you want to be an actor, you've got to watch plays and movies and all those kinds of things. If you want to be an artist, you've got to look at art. If you want to be a storyteller, you have to listen to stories. What is in our attention, what we pay attention to, what we give attention to, shapes us. I can play music because I've listened to the kind of music I want to play. I've gotten filled up with it and I can let it out. I can tell stories because I've listened to stories and I've gotten filled up with the stories that I listen to and I can let them out. I can't act or do art because I have not paid close enough attention to either of those things. But it matters what is in our attention collection. Our reading today is Jesus getting kind of upset with the Pharisees, maybe a little unfairly, but also probably a little fairly, about what is in their attention collections. They are focusing, he says, on the wrong things. They've got their tithes on mint and dill and cumin down. They know how those go. They are paying them. They are encouraging other people to pay them. They are not so much paying attention to the weightier matters of the law. They are washing the cup, but not the right parts of the cup. So part of it is clean, but not the other part. They are focusing, we often say, on the more superficial parts of how to worship God and missing the deeper down things. And that is easy to do. It is easy to look at a church and see a beautiful building and gorgeous stained glass windows and a nice projection screen and a big cross and a beautiful kitchen and miss all of the people who do all of the stuff that grows God's kingdom all around us. It is easy to think that following Jesus is about shouting about Jesus as loudly and often as I can, and miss that it's about living like Jesus as much as I can. It is easy to get focused on one thing and miss the deeper things, the more important things, the more life-giving things. Which isn't to say that we shouldn't pay attention to the other stuff as well. But I'll get to that in just a moment. We have a lot of things in our world that vie for our attention, that try to grab our attention, that try to get our attention, that try to keep our attention. 24-hour cable news networks try to do that, but so does Facebook. So does YouTube. So does whatever we're calling Twitter now. So do all of those social media networks. They try to draw us in. And they try to draw us in by giving us something nice and easy and superficial that will spark an emotional reaction. They try to give us a picture that will make us angry. Because when you're angry, you focus in on that. You pay attention to things that you are angry about. I have done that. I'll see an article come over my feed, and I'll read the article, and I will get mad, and I will not let it go for days. And when I do let it go, something else will just spark it, and I'll come back to it. I will see it on a Monday, and on Thursday, Mariah will still hear me going, I cannot believe that guy wrote that thing. And then a while later, something else catches my attention, and I forget what the first thing was altogether. But we have so many things trying to grab our attention, trying to keep our attention, and trying to do that by getting us to focus on things like being angry, being frustrated, being upset, being sad. And the question I have to ask is whether that's what we want to be filled with. If I am filled with anger, anger pours out. If I am filled with frustration, frustration pours out. If I'm filled with sadness, sadness pours out. And wouldn't I rather be full of other things so that other things can pour out? So that I can fill the world with other things? Wouldn't I rather be full of hope so that hope can pour out? Wouldn't I rather be full of mercy so that mercy can pour out? Wouldn't I rather be full of justice so that justice can pour out, or love so that love can pour out? So that the world can be more full of hope and of mercy and of justice and of love. Now, I said I'd return to this because it's important. That doesn't mean that I never get angry. It doesn't mean that I never get frustrated. It doesn't mean that I never get sad. A good attention collection has variety in it. And sometimes those things can help with the other things. There's a poem, Emily Dickinson, I think. Hope is a thing with feathers. Which is probably kind of true. When I was in seminary, I had a roommate who had a rescue cockatiel. I don't know what it was rescued from, probably itself. It was named Woodstock, and it was loud, and it was good at being loud. It was so loud that everybody throughout seminary housing could hear it at all times. It was also mean. You did not put a finger close to the cage. He would bite you. The place that we lived had mice. You would occasionally see evidence of mice. You would occasionally see armies of mice. And one day I come home and I look in Woodstock's cage, and there is Woodstock, and there on the floor of the cage is a dead mouse. It had made the mistake of going into the cage with the rescue cockatiel, and it had briefly learned a lesson. Hope is a thing with feathers, occasionally fueled by rage. And that's true. Sometimes anger can help us find hope. We can say, this is not the world as it should be. That is the world as it should be, and I know we can get there. Sometimes justice is fueled by sorrow. I can't stand that this thing happened. We can make it better. Sometimes mercy is fueled by frustration. I'm not going to change you, but I can love you all the same. A good attention collection has variety. But the important thing to that variety is that it is more focused on those good things, those things we want to have, those things that we want to be, those things that we want to be filled with, those things that we want to pour out of ourselves, so that the world can be something closer to God's reign of love. So as we go through our lives, as we think about our stories, the stories that we want to tell, the stories that we want to live, we think about what is in our attention collection. What are the stories that we are listening to? What are the stories that we are grabbing onto? What are the stories that we are holding? That those might be the stories that continue and grow and get ever bigger and ever more powerful, until this whole world is full of the story of God's reign of love.